All right, we are live. It is another Sunday Night Live, and today, we're going to talk about insurance. I get a lot of questions with regards to insurance, what your insurance covers, what it should cover, what you think it should cover, what it might cover, what it does cover, what it doesn't cover. There's a lot of confusion around insurance, deductibles, copays, coinsurance. What does all that mean? So I'm going to break it down for you today, and we are going to let you guys get loaded up here in the chat. Welcome everybody in, and then we will get this conversation going. This is just a really it's a really great conversation to have because it's confusing. Insurance is very confusing, and I've been doing this for 26 years. And I think that the insurance companies, this is just my opinion, I feel like they do this on purpose. So the more confused you are, the less you know how to ask the right questions. And we're going to create a post here and get this out. Join us live now. Okay, post that. Get everybody called in here. And let me post this in a couple more spots. Copy that. And we're going to head on over to Facebook. Oh, you know what? I forgot I can't post on Facebook. I don't know why. All right, let's get over here. I'll let you guys load up. And, what questions do you have about insurance? You can go ahead and drop those into the chat. Do you have insurance for chiropractic? Do you not? Let's see here. Let's see. Join us live now. Does your chiropractor or other holistic healthcare provider accept insurance? Do you have benefits for things like nutrition services? Does your insurance give you an incentive for, let's say, a gym membership? Sometimes they will do that. Some insurances will incentivize you to, for when you do things like keep your BMI, your weight at a certain level. They will incentivize you for if your healthcare markers like your cholesterol levels, your blood pressure, when you go and get those yearly exams. If all of those numbers fall within a certain range, your insurance will give you a discount of sorts. Hey, P Squared, how are you? Nice to see you in here. And then what they'll do, I remember years ago, I had a patient who he had signed up for a weight loss program through his insurance company. And the deal was they would, I know it's 6:00 already. I know I was at the lake and I was like racing to get home. And I'm like, how do I look? Do I look like I've been in the water all day? But so he had a lot of weight to lose. And so his insurance company said that they would give him a discount on his benefits if he lost a certain amount of weight, if he got his BMI to a certain level, if his blood pressure got to a certain level. And they were paying for his chiropractic care at a certain rate. And then he had 6 months to start moving his numbers in a certain range. And he completely did not do that. Hey, Bill, welcome in. Nice to see you. And thank you, P Squared. Good. I don't look like I literally just got out of the lake. This is like lake hair. I did put a little makeup on. So what they did was after 6 months, suddenly I look at the payments coming through on his insurance, and they were paying less. And so they penalized him for not taking matters into his own hands, for not taking responsibility for certain, parameters, certain things about his health that they were about to give him discounts for. So your insurance companies, some insurance companies will incentivize you for doing things like that. Um, so the way I want to explain it to you, just to give you the baseline, because I recently, earlier this year, I went out of network with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I only accept a certain types of insurance. I still accept and bill for Blue Cross, but what I do is, now there's probably a higher out of pocket for you, the patient. There is sometimes I will give you a receipt and you can turn it in for reimbursement. So a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to have to turn in a receipt and reimburse for themselves because it's a pain. Yeah, I know. So imagine you've got 100+ patients in a week, and I have to do that for every single person. I have to submit, and then I have to wait for my payment. You're doing it once for one appointment, or let's say it's, you send in for a month and it's, 6 or 12 appointments. I'm doing it across the board for all of my patients. So you can imagine how that affects the bottom line of a business when you have to wait, because insurance companies could turn around and pay you within 2 weeks, but they will tell you straight up they have 90 days to pay. So imagine going to your job and your boss says, we'll pay you in 90 days, maybe. And then after 90 days, you get some explanation that says, yeah, you know what? You didn't really do all the things we wanted you to do. So we're not going to pay you. And then you have to appeal and you have to go, wait, I was here. I showed up. I did this thing. And here's what happened to the company. And I did all these great things for the company. And the company benefited for it. And they're like, yeah, we're not sure. And then they give you some BS reason why they still won't pay you. So you have to go back again and you have to say, but I did the work and I showed up and this is what I was, here to do. This is what the insurance companies do to practitioners all the time. They give us this runaround. They don't want to pay our bills. Hey, Grammy Karen, how are you? They drastically undercut our rates. And it just became so detrimental to me as a business owner. And also the fact that I know that I'm serving people at such a high level. I'm literally giving people their lives back. People will say to me, wow, I didn't know what I was going to do until I met you. I have never felt better in my life. I didn't know I could feel this good. They literally will say, you gave me my life back. And then you have somebody coming in and wanting to take all the money back for that. So that really becomes you're handcuffed as a practitioner. You become handcuffed to the insurance company and what they tell you that you should and shouldn't be doing for a patient. And we'll get into that in a little bit because I have a story with regards to what insurance companies will pay for, what they won't pay for, what they tell you they'll pay for, and what they actually will pay for. I don't want to say it's a scam, but it's really it's a mental game as a practitioner. You can really feel handcuffed. And so the opportunity for me to step out came along and I did, and I feel incredibly liberated. And we'll get to that in that story. But let's talk about, first of all, how your insurance benefits work, because this is really something that questions that I get asked all the time. And thought I could do, I was seeing if I could do like a sketch or a whiteboard or something. I think I have to be in a different platform on that one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when you have insurance, you have a deductible. Some people may have a deductible. Some people may not have a deductible. What is a deductible? Most people will get the deductible, the copay, and the coinsurance confused. And most people have no idea that there's a difference between a copay and a coinsurance. So we'll talk about that. Bill says, don't like to admit it, but I have Medicare for insurance. I imagine that is a plan for you to bill if you Oh, that is a pain for me to bill if you do. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Bill. I actually have a story with Medicare, which I'm going to address that in a minute because Medicare is another really interesting uh, um, entity to deal with. So let's talk about the basics and how it works, and then I'm going to tell you about Medicare, and then we'll go into all the other things. So, so you have a deductible, and a deductible. Let's say your deductible is $1,000. So what that means is that you, as the patient, you have to pay out of pocket $1,000 to any practitioner. Could be your primary care physician, could be your gynecologist, could be your ophthalmologist, if you even get eye coverage. It could be your chiropractor. It could be, did I say that? So it could be anybody. So it doesn't matter who you go to, your cardiologist, it doesn't matter who you go to. They'll bill the insurance company, and whatever they bill and that the insurance company approves, that's another conversation. We're going to have that in a second. That goes towards your deductible, which then means, so let's say I bill $100, they approve 50. So $50 then gets chunked away at your $1,000 deductible, but now you owe me $50. So you have to pay out of pocket that $50. So let me know, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if that makes sense. So when we bill insurance, there's a billed amount. So again, let's say I bill $100. Let's say I bill $1,000. The insurance company has what's called these approved amounts. And the approved amounts are the amounts that they approve to pay. And that's a bit of a safety, it's a bit of a guard, because that means I can't charge $1,000 for something and another practitioner might charge $5,000 for something. But then the insurance company says, listen, this particular service should be payable at this particular rate. So if I bill 1,000 and they're like, no, it's only payable at 50, that's their approved amount. So it doesn't do me any good to bill 1,000. I'm not going to get paid for it. That becomes a write-off. So that literally goes into the write-off column. It's gone. It's money I never see. So there's now the way your copay works. And if you guys are tracking with me, give me a thumbs up, because this is where it gets a little confusing. So you've got your, so now let's say we've gone through your $1,000, you've gone through all the different practitioners, you've paid $1,000 out of pocket of that approved amount. And now the insurance company is like, okay, you paid your deductible. So now we're going to start paying. And insurances will say, we'll pay at 80/20, or they'll have a copay. So the biggest difference between copay and coinsurance is a copay is a dollar amount, like $10 or $20. Coinsurance is a percentage. So like 10%, 20%. The most common coinsurance is going to be 80/20. So the insurance company pays 80%, you end up paying 20%. And then it's some weird number like $8.29 or something like that would be your coinsurance instead of a copay, which is a set dollar amount. So then the insurance company says, okay, we have our approved amount. And just for simple math purposes, let's say I bill 80, they approve 50, but they only pay 30. That means your copay, your set dollar amount, is $20. So you have to make up the difference between the approved amount and the paid amount. That's your out of pocket. Okay. So, so you're paying a little bit. Some insurance companies cover 100%. Some will cover, again, there'll be a dollar amount or there'll be a percentage amount that they'll cover. And then you're responsible for the difference between the paid amount and the approved amount. Okay. Not the billed amount. Some people will freak out when they get that billed amount, because I mean, a billed amount for me for an examination, full set of x-rays and an adjustment could be over $400. But by the time we get to the approved amounts and then the paid amounts, it could be somewhere between $250 and $300. So So we have to keep our billable rates above those approved amount numbers so that we can actually maximize the actual approved amounts, if that makes sense. Um, so that's where your copay and your coinsurance come from. Now, um, the what your coverage is in general is, you'll be told you have certain benefits for certain disciplines. So we'll just say chiropractic. So let's just say the insurance company says you have 12 visits for chiropractic, or you have 24 is a really common number for chiropractic. The problem with that is then a lot of insurance companies will say, well, you've got 24 visits, but you have a $50 copay, but their approved amount is like $42.75. So they're charging you a copay over and above what the actual approved amount is, which to me is insurance fraud on the part of the insurance company. Because if your copay is higher than their approved amount, why don't they just tell you you don't have a benefit? Because that's basically what they're doing, is they're telling you you don't have a chiropractic benefit. And I see this all the time. In fact, we had a lawsuit against all the Blues in the state of Michigan several years ago because they were doing this consistently, telling a patient they had chiropractic benefits, but then making that copay so high, $40, $50, $60, that it made no sense for them to even have a benefit. So they were choosing policies that said, okay, they had chiropractic care, but then when they went to the chiropractor, they're like, oh, well, no, you've got a $5,000 deductible. You have to meet first, and then you only have, you have 12 visits. Well, if we've got to meet $5,000 before we get to your chiropractic visits, we're never gonna get there. And hey, Rebel Canners, nice to see you. And we can't. So let's say you have 12 visits on your policy, and you have $1,000 or let's say $1,000 deductible. 12 visits is never going to hit $1,000, and we can't bill past 12 visits. So I get a lot of people thinking, oh, well, once I hit my deductible, then the 12 visits kicks in. That's not how it works at all. That 12 visits gets billed each time you come in. And then once it's done, it's done. It doesn't matter if it hit your deductible, if it was after the deductible. So that's also a bit of frustration for people, is they're like, oh, so I really don't have a benefit because I have to hit this deductible first, but then I lose my visits every time I come in. Yes, that's correct. So, there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of nuance there, and it gets very, very confusing for people. A lot of doctors' offices, and I tell people this too, with this caveat, is that you as a subscriber are in the best position to know what your benefits are. But it's really not realistic because it's so confusing. And I've been doing this for 26 years, and it's still an incredible maze that I have to walk through to get benefits at times. It's almost impossible to talk to a live human with regards to people's benefits. So I have to rely on a website that gives me the information. So going to Bill's question with regards to Medicare, I had, from the provider perspective, it's called a clearinghouse. And so what this clearinghouse is, so we have our software that we use. So your name, all your demographic information goes in there. We do all of our billing and coding through there. And then your software, when you create a billing report, that report then goes into a file, and you take that file number and you put it into your clearinghouse portal. And then that clearinghouse then takes all those files, takes the file number digitally, and it distributes them. So let's say you had a combination of Blue Cross, Cigna, Medicare, Aetna. So it takes all those files from all those claims, and it distributes them to all the different insurance companies. So that's what your clearinghouse is responsible for. It's one place that you put all your claims that then sends it out to all the different insurance companies. So about 2 years ago, I changed clearinghouses because my clearinghouse they were warning us that they were going to be phasing out. We didn't know when, but I just said, okay, so I'm going to phase out and I'm going to move to a different clearinghouse. So I moved to a different clearinghouse. And when you do that, there's a lot of documents that you have to sign, fill out, make sure that you are getting all the information for the Blues, your commercial insurances, which are like your Cignas, your Aetnas, those, and Medicare. So you have to do this across the board for all the different insurance companies. It's a huge pain. And so there's all these documents and they have to be filled out and then they have to get submitted and then you have to get approved. And if the I's aren't dotted and the T's aren't crossed, then you have to do it again. So I did this multiple times. Hey, Rick, how are you? Nice to see you. And I had to do it twice for the Blues and all the commercial insurances. So I finally got that to go through. I kept submitting my Medicare. I had the information. I had all the instructions in front of me for Medicare multiple times. I submitted Medicare 3 or 4 times. I finally figured out that it wasn't working. I wasn't getting my Medicare claims. I was submitting, but I wasn't receiving anything. Then I figured out that I was receiving them through my old clearinghouse. So I was like, I'm just going to go with it because I don't do much Medicare, but at the time I was like, I don't even know what to do because every time I call Medicare, I can't get them on the phone. And then I would try to go into my Medicare portal and I couldn't log in. I mean, it would recognize me to log in, but then it would tell me I had to like redo something, re-credential or what. And then I'd have to call, then I would call, and then I could never get through. So I said, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to do this. So I could receive my Medicare claims through my old clearinghouse. So then a few months ago, I get a call from a woman at Medicare. I mean, it's shocking that they even call. And she says, hey, hi, Homestead, how are you? She said, I just want to let you know we received claims. You need to call Medicare and tell Medicare that they need to be going through this other portal. And I was like, okay, I've done that. I've done it multiple times. I can't get Medicare to actually recognize the proper, that I've done all the proper things. So I call Medicare. I can't get through. It gets like rare you get a live person. So about 3, maybe a month ago, I finally reached somebody at Medicare because I can't get into my portal. I'm still trying to get into the portal. I'm still trying to see if I can collect these claims. And so I get a hold of somebody. Somebody actually answered. I couldn't believe it. And she says, I can't find you in the system. And I'm like, I'm looking at me right here. Like I'm seeing me in the portal, but it's telling me I have to, do something else. And then when I go to try to like renew or re-sign up or something, it tells me I already exist. It was one of those things. And she was like, oh, okay, well, I'll look into this further. I'll escalate it and I'll have someone call you. Okay. You guys, do you think I've received that phone call? I've not received that phone call from Medicare. Meanwhile, I've had 2 Medicare patients come into my office. They're both previous patients who want to use their Medicare. And I had to say no, like no, because I can't get paid on it. And I don't know how to get Medicare to fix it. And so then the one patient, he says, well, are you going to charge me the contracted rate, which is like $32? And I'm like, no. Just no, I'm not. No, because I mean, the hoops that I have to go through to get through that. And also I can't actually legally charge him $32 because then that's basically insurance fraud on my part. So I can't do that either. So Medicare has been a whole big runaround and I can't get through to them. So, at this point I'll be going completely out of network with Medicare. I don't see much Medicare anyway. But It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I had a patient, so going back to Blue Cross, I got a letter, and I'll tell you why I went out of network earlier this year. And this is why, just going back, why am I bringing this whole conversation up? Is because I want you to have a better understanding of what your insurance does cover, what it should cover. This is a look behind the curtain on what it really covers and how insurances really do a disservice to your providers. And if you want your providers to be in business, then you have to start thinking of other ways to compensate. So, um, so, and you are so right, Haig. Patients don't realize at all what the doctors go through, which is why I think you came on after I was saying how now what I do with some of my insurance companies is I give my patients a receipt to turn in to submit for themselves for reimbursement. And they're like, yeah, that's too much work. And I'm like, yeah, multiply that times all the patients that I see in a week. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm submitting and I have to wait on my payment. I can't run a business like that anymore, especially when they keep reducing the rate that they actually are reimbursing. So, yes, and it can take, it can take 2 weeks to 90 days to get paid. Blue Cross last year had a glitch in their system, and nobody got paid for 3 months. Can you imagine? And I mean, that was like Blue Cross was the majority of my insurance compensation. So imagine that, not getting paid for 3 months. I mean, it was crazy. And then they finally reimbursed and they finally paid. And but then I had to go back because they didn't pay all of it. And I still had to go back and get them. I had to get on the phone and I had to resubmit. So the time it takes to track it down, like when you come in and I'm serving you and creating value in your life and you pay me at the time of service, like that's how it should be, right? Like you go into a store, you buy your groceries, you pay for them, you leave. Um, there's there's so many different, again, the hoops, like you said, Haig, that we have to go through just to get reduced payment. And this is why you're going to find that most of your doctors are starting to go out of network. Most of your holistic providers, functional medicine, nutrition coaches, and then even a lot of your chiropractors are now moving out of network. Rebel says, I taught myself medical billing because nobody at my last job updated the codes in years and they were not billing correctly. I can feel your pain. I've spent entire days on the phone to help patients. It is so frustrating, isn't it? And then you're on hold, and then lucky if you get somebody, we can't afford to cut Medicare more, right? So they're cutting Medicare even more to the doctors, right? Insurance companies and government are such a pain to deal with, Bill. You are so correct. So here's another little story. So the insurance companies, when you are in network, I'm not certain about this out of network, but more likely when you're in network, they can audit you at any time, and they can go back 5 years for an audit. So that means like if they give me if they want to audit me tomorrow, they could go back 5 years and audit me. That's how their rules work. So I got it's called a take back for a patient from 2 years ago. And they said, we paid you in error $465. So the way this patient worked was they had Medicare primary. Medicare is always primary unless you are working while you're on Medicare, then Medicare becomes secondary. A little confusing there. But let's just say Medicare is normally primary. Then they had a secondary Blue Cross policy. And then they had a third Blue Cross policy, but we were only dealing with the Medicare and the secondary Blue Cross. So I get a letter from Blue Cross about this patient. It says, we paid you in error, an overpayment of $465. And it said Medicare is primary and it should have gone to Medicare first. Okay, you guys, And Rebel, you'll probably relate to me here, because if you've done billing, I billed it to Medicare. The way Medicare works, Medicare does not pay for examination and x-rays on a patient. They only pay for the adjustment. That's it. And they may only pay for part of that, which then means the secondary has to come in and pay for the examination and x-rays, if they do, as well as the adjustment. So this particular secondary policy picked up the examination and the x-rays. But Blue Cross was trying to tell me Medicare should have paid for it. And I'm like, Medicare doesn't. Like, it's in the Medicare rules. Medicare does not cover examination and x-rays, period. It's either out of pocket for the patient or it goes to their secondary if the secondary picks it up and it has that benefit. So I was on the phone the other day. So I collected all of the documents from the payments. I wrote the letter. So that was probably a couple of hours of my time. And then I got on the phone with Blue Cross. I was on the phone with them for an hour and a half. And I got, a gentleman on the phone who looked into it, and he goes, this looks like it was paid properly. I go, yes, it was paid properly. But here's the thing. Most people don't understand how the process works. Most practitioners don't understand how the process works. And so they probably would have just cut a check and said, to heck with it. I'm not willing to do that. That's my money. That is my money. So 2 years goes by and they're trying to take my money back. Again, this is where I'm like, can you imagine? Can you imagine your employer coming back and you're going, yeah, we overpaid you by $465 2 years ago. We're taking that out of your next check. Because that's what they'll do, is they'll garnish it on forward payments. So you got to fight for this stuff, and you have to know how to fight for it. And this, again, becomes why are chiropractors going out of network, which, again, there's more to that story. So Hyde says, the silver tsunami is starting and all the boomers are retiring. We need more coverage and more streamlined processes, not less. Yeah, it's the expense is the insurance companies are rich beyond belief, because they get paid to not pay you. Like, that is how they make their money. Rebel says the caveats is nobody can bill more than Medicare pays, right? Then Medicare approves, right? Not that they pay. So the prices are set by the system, not the cost of providing care. Yeah, I think you popped in after I was talking about the billed amount versus the approved amount versus the paid amount. So if I bill 100 and Medicare approves 50, but they pay 30, the patient's responsible for 20. But hey, Mountain Grandma, nice to see you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. So, but the problem, Medicare only pays I think it's $32.75 for an adjustment. But then Medicare requires that we have a yearly x-ray, and they require that we do an examination. But guess what? They don't pay for it. So they're like, so it's the most backwards thing. I almost swore. It's the most backwards thing that it could possibly do, that Medicare could possibly do. So, Medicare really has you, if you're accepting Medicare, they really have you by the short hairs on that. So the other insurance companies, and I'm talking mostly specific to chiropractic, but even like your wellness visits. So wellness visits, according to the insurance companies, are like your yearly flu shot, your COVID vaccine, your shingles shot. It's things like that. Those aren't health, you guys. Those are injections into the human body of toxic waste. Nobody's teaching you. The insurance company doesn't pay for you to go to a nutritionist to get proper dietary guidance. There's a couple of insurance that might pay, but it's very minimal. So it's not worth billing insurance for those services, because the amount of time you have to spend with a patient to help understand their lifestyle, their dietary issues, what their food intake is like, that's not worth the few bucks you're going to get paid if you bill it to insurance. And, that's the reality of it. I don't even want to apologize for making that statement. We have to we're in business. And if we want to be in business and serving people and getting people healthy and well, then we need to be able to get compensated for that. Um, and because, in my opinion, I don't want to see 1,000 people and get paid $10 a person. I can do a greater service if I'm seeing less people getting paid more. I can spend more time with you. There's more, toe to toe contact, and there's definitely more personal connection there. So Heig says, don't get me on my soapbox about how the government wants to tell you what the patient needs instead of you, the doctor who sees them. Okay, this is a great comment, Heig. So I had a patient come in this week who had young gal, probably early 30s, maybe like 31, 32, 33, something like that. She's got something going. She first came to me, um, and she had this really sharp pain in her mid back, and it would come up under her ribs into the front of her rib cage. And I was like, it could be a rib. I took an X-ray, didn't see any fractures or anything like that. It had been going on for a few years. She knows chiropractic helps. She can't really get to the bottom of it. So, I'm starting to suspect something else. So I'm talking to her about, nutrition things, lifestyle. She then got sick and she went to her primary care physician who drew blood. And her primary care physician said, there might be something going on with your spleen. And I went, oh my God. I go, that makes so much sense. And I said, because we were missing something and I couldn't figure out what it was. But I'm not thinking spleen. This is a young girl. And she never had, like, usually spleen, you think like if somebody had like mono or Epstein-Barr, something like that. And she doesn't have any history of that. So her primary care physician says, I want you to go get a CT scan and then we'll go from there. And I said, she goes, oh, I don't want to, she didn't want to go get the CT scan because she was afraid of the exposure of radiation. And I go, this is a case where the risk is far less than the benefit. Like, we need to know what the heck is going on. I seriously suspect that you have an organ issue. It's not just your rib, it's over and above that. And so let's I had to really talk her into making that appointment. So she makes the appointment. She was supposed to have it last Tuesday. She comes in on Thursday to get adjusted. And I said, how did it go? And she goes, oh, they canceled the appointment an hour before I got there because her insurance company wanted her to have an ultrasound first. Her insurance company wouldn't pay for a CT scan of her spleen. They wanted her to have an ultrasound first and then have the CT scan. So they canceled it. So now she has to go back to her primary care physician, get an order for an ultrasound, make another appointment. Now all this time is passing and this poor girl is in a serious amount of pain. So yeah, this is like, so she's being dictated by her insurance company and she needs help now. And this is where, and her primary care physician, why wouldn't you just, like, her PCP ordered it, like, accept it so that we can get this girl some help. So yeah, so this happens all the time where we allow our health to be dictated by our insurance. And that is something that we've got to be so much more proactive at making sure that we're not getting ourselves wrangled and we're not allowing our health to get derailed because of insurance companies. Rebel says, my last policy, the insurance owned by my employer denied every claim for a year because they paid themselves $50. Yes. Oh my gosh. I have a friend of mine who's a chiropractor who used to work for an insurance company. And she said she would come into work and they would tell her, pull every fifth claim and deny it. Just random, just so random. And that is how they work. I'm fighting to get paid. Hey, Devil Dog, nice to see you. Hey, Make It by Mandy. Hey, long time no see. Nice to see you in here. I'm fighting right now for an auto case. So her claims got denied after 20 visits. And for auto cases, you have to bill on paper, but it's a whole thing. Anyway, it's, fax. So I do them in batches. So I think in total, she's um, been seen like 40 times over, like 4 or 5 months, something like that. Her insurance company said, the auto company said that they're denying after 20 visits because she didn't have surgery. And so there's no justification for chiropractic care because she didn't have surgery. And I'm like, I, that's a first for me. I've never heard that as a reason for a denial. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like chiropractic care, there's so much data and documentation behind chiropractic care. So to help people and to help improve them so they don't need insurance. So I was like, what is that? So now I'm in the process of fighting that. I mean, it's like $3,000. Again, they're like holding my money hostage because so I submitted my first what do you call it? Appeal. I submit my first appeal. And the date submitted it, and then I got a letter back a few days later. I submitted it on like the afternoon of whatever the date was. The date of this letter, the new denial letter, the second denial letter I got was the very next day. And I called the adjuster and I go, there is no way that the nurse you're telling me evaluated this case and I said it needs to be reevaluated. I'm like, there's no way. I go, what? One day I sent it in. I go, that is an Autobot that just whipped this thing around and sent it back to me and just denied. So to your point, Rebel, that yes, like I just have to keep fighting because that's my money. That's my hard-earned money that I helped this girl get better from an auto accident. Um, so it really, again, when we're starting to talk about why do we take insurance? Why do we not take insurance? What does it cover? What does it not uncover? What does it not cover? And I think that the general public has been led to believe that, oh, you have insurance and you just walk in and you hand your insurance and everything's fine. But you don't see all the chaos that happens behind the scenes. You don't see the hours spent. If I had staff, so I'm solo, but when I had staff, I was paying my staff to be on the phone for hours. At a certain point, it's all a loss. Like it's not even worth collecting the money, which is why a lot of people do. They just go, okay, I'm just going to write it off because they just don't think it's worth running after the money. So Devil Dog, this is a great question. How long after my brain surgery should I wait to go back to the chiropractor? If your chiropractor has an activator, which is like a little clicker device, and I would say go back immediately, like get there now. And then maybe just if you were my patient, I would probably do more like soft tissue work on the neck. I would use the activator. I wouldn't do an actual traditional chiropractic adjustment. I would use the activator, which is completely non-force. So I would call your chiropractor and do they know you had brain surgery, and let them know, and then either just say, again, this would be me personally, is you wouldn't want your neck adjusted unless they can do a non-force technique like an activator. And that's why we have all the different tools in our toolbox, because we need to be able to handle so many different people in different cases. So going back to why did I go out of network? So last summer, I had Blue Cross gave me another audit, and they said that they wanted 5. Yeah, this is high for sure. Yeah, they count on providers giving up and writing it off because you're paying staff to do it. So, I mean, a lot of doctors like, no, I don't want to pay my staff to do it, to sit on the phone for hours. So, yes, call tomorrow for sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. I would definitely call. Let me know how that goes. So Blue Cross sent me a letter last summer, and they wanted information on 5 different patients. Now, the 5 patients that they requested on were very difficult patients. They required a tremendous amount of time, energy. They actually, I mean, I love taking care of them because they were actually like some of my best cases, meaning some of my hardest cases, which I love. I love the hard cases because you have people coming in who are almost desperate, and then you're able to like manage them in such a way that again they tell you, you gave me my life back. So they got these 5 patients. I had to send in all the records, and then what you do is you get on the phone. You have a call, a coaching. It's not a coaching call. It's not what they call it. Counseling call, I think they call it. And you get on the phone with a couple of chiropractors who are no longer practicing, who now work for the insurance company. And so you have this conversation with them, and they tell you all the ways that you're spending too much money. And that's what it comes, they say that, but then when you question them and you're like, so you don't want me to spend money anymore? And they're like, no, we're not saying that. We just think that you could have handled these patients and not seen them as much. So what they told me, so each of the patients that they had asked about had been seen anywhere from 10 to 12 times at the time that they had had requested the records. And I said, then they said to me, they said, none of these patients should have been seen more than 2 to 3 times. And I was like, what? Did you even read my medical records? Like these patients were, they needed the help. They needed the care. Did you read the improvements that they made? Well, we're not here to talk about each individual patient, when they were actually making reference to individual patients. So I knew, so there was, just a whole lot of word salad coming from their end. So I go, okay, so you wanted me, so a patient comes in, you want me to do examination and x-rays and then dismiss them from care two visits later. Well, that's what it warranted. I was like, so you're told, so here's the bottom line. If you have, let's just say a Blue Cross policy, and you're told you have 24 visits on the policy, that's not what Blue Cross wants us to bill. Blue Cross is like, no, we want you billing less than 6 visits overall. And they specifically told me 3. Then they said, if you don't start practicing like we're asking, we'll be forced to take corrective action. Okay, I'm going to let that sink in for a second. What is an RFA? Yeah, and an activator is a non-force adjustment. That's correct. So define that. So does the insurance chip not know the difference between PT and chiro? What's the chip? Oh, insurance company not know the difference between PT and chiro. We are talking about, so we're just talking about chiro. So not PT at this point. So basically they had said to me that they wanted me to see patients less, and they were be forced to take corrective action if I didn't do so. Now here's what corrective action is. So I want you to like really understand this. So corrective action is a couple of things. It could be they could kick me out of network. Now, if they do that, that's a strike against my license, you guys. That is considered it's corrective action, right? It basically means that you did something wrong. My malpractice would go up, which my malpractice is $1,000 a year, so it's cheap to begin with. Which again, this is why like we are helping people. Otherwise, our insurance, if we're not, we're not harming people. Otherwise, our malpractice rates would be super high. So that's the first thing. It's a strike against the license. Now, if you were searching for me, you wanted to look me up and say, oh, I want to go see Dr. Ruffin. I heard she's a great chiropractor. So you look up me and look up my license. That's public record. And now if you see that I got kicked out of Blue Cross, this prestigious Blue Cross, what would you think? You'd think that I was doing shady shit. You'd think that the reason I got kicked out was because I was performing insurance fraud. Like that's the perception. So then, so that's the other thing. So I said, well, I'm not about to allow them to ruin my reputation. So So I voluntarily left. I had to because I could not allow that to happen. I have a incredibly clean record. I've got a great record. I have helped thousands of people over my 26 years, and it was not about to let this nonsense ruin my pristine reputation or my ability to help people. So that's why I went. That's why I did it. And I had a lot of people who have been with me for years and haven't seen them. They just dropped out of care. I'm sure they went to another chiropractor who will take their insurance benefits and who will take their Blue Cross until Blue Cross catches up with them. Blue Cross is they're catching up with a lot. They're doing a lot of these audits. So then the other piece of that is that yes, they can still come back if they don't like what you're doing. Corrective action is audit you more, go back 5 years, take back more of your money. It wasn't a plan I was willing to sign up for. So then they sent me an email a couple months after I got out of network, and they said, we need you to start in this program. And it was a corrective action program. And the corrective action program was just, they just want to bury you in paperwork. And I just responded back and I said, my understanding is that this program is for in-network chiropractors only. And since I'm out of network, I don't see how it applies. Haven't heard from them since. So there's that. So be very mindful when you are thinking about what your insurance covers, what it should cover, what you want it to cover. Really, what you should be paying out of pocket for are the things that improve your life. Your insurance is really there for catastrophic. That's what we want it there for. But you shouldn't be expecting your insurance company, your insurance benefits to cover things like, daily wellness. Go pay for the health club. It's not going to buy your fruits and vegetables. It's not going to, teach you how to eat well. It's not going to pay for that kind of stuff. You've got to pay out of pocket for that. And ultimately it comes down to, you pay for it now or you pay for it later. So you pay for it now, it's upfront costs. They give you long-term benefits. Or if you're like, well, if my insurance company doesn't pay for it, then I don't want to do it, which a lot of people will have that attitude as well. And that's really just, it's a hands-off approach to your health. They don't care about your health, period, right? This is going back to the young woman about her spleen. It's like the hoops. So figure out something where you don't have to have hoops. Hi, I still don't know what radio frequency ablation is. Is that you say you had that on your brain? Oh, in the cervical area. Oh, an ablation, like a nerve ablation, right? Yeah. I've had people who've had like lumbar ablations, and I've still adjusted them traditionally. So, because ablation doesn't take care of the alignment issue. You had an ablation because I'm going to just with it being, I'm going to make a huge assumption on what's happening here, but ablation is nerve impingement, irritation so bad it's causing a tremendous amount of pain, probably from severe misalignment, severe degenerative arthritis from previous injuries. And so you get the joints in better alignment and it gets more stress off of the nerve. But the traditional way, like you're saying with the ablation, is you go in and you burn the nerve endings so you don't feel them anymore. That's like putting electrical tape over your check engine light. You didn't take care of the problem. So I absolutely would definitely go to the chiropractor and make sure that you get a good x-ray, make sure it's somebody who will take an x-ray, who knows how to manage that alignment, and start gently. I don't know what's happening in your spine, but I'm just saying, like, you need to make sure you find somebody who will evaluate that very deeply before you adjust it. And then you make the consideration. Do you adjust it by hand? Do you adjust it with an activator in some other way? So insurance groups, PT, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, but chiro is separate. Sometimes they group it. So sometimes what they'll do, like PT, OT, and speech will be like 60 visits. And I'm saying that because I'll call and I'll verify benefits, and they'll say 60 visits for PT, OT, and speech, and then chiropractic gets 24. Um, so sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes, occasionally, chiropractic will be grouped in there, but not always. So yeah, burns the nerves. Yeah, it did not take care of alignment. It did not take care of the root cause. It just burned your nerves so you don't feel them anymore. So now you just keep damaging them. You just can't feel the damage. So yeah, from arthritis and injury. So the chiropractor will help with realignment of that. It's like not rotating tires on your car, and you get a bald spot on one of your tires, and so you put duct tape over it. Like it's not, it's not going to fix it. So it's like taking the battery out of the smoke. Yeah, exactly. Stops the noise, but still needs to fight the fire for sure. That's absolutely, absolutely correct. So we have to get to the root cause, and we have to get to, the reasons for these things. I'm always like, I can't believe the medical doctors will prescribe a nerve ablation before they will refer to a chiropractor. Like, to me, that's like, what? Like, that's insanity to me, because they think we're going to kill people when you're burning nerves. Like, how is that even? I don't know. Yeah, kind of spins my brain a little bit. So do you have any more questions or any questions with regards to insurance? I know it's a pretty big topic, but I wanted to talk about, just so many people are expecting their insurance to pay for, to cover, to take care of anything and everything. And it's such, people are like, will my insurance cover that? Will my insurance cover that? Will my insurance cover that? You it becomes the evaluation of all the things that you're doing in your life, in your world, that you could probably clean up some other areas of your life that you're paying for, that you could then use that money to pay for health services, to pay for a nutrition coach, to pay for the chiropractor, to pay for a gym membership, to pay for fresh fruits and vegetables, like whatever it is. You have to start looking at all the ways you're spending money, and then evaluate where those dollars need to get allocated that are going to serve you for the long term. Like say, pay for it now or pay for it later. Big difference between what Medicare pays and what Medicare Advantage pays for. So Medicare Advantage, when it first came on the scene, and there might be some Medicare Advantage policies that have changed, but when so I remember when, I can't remember how many years it's been, when Medicare started combining their so most patients, when I first started, they'd come in with their Medicare policy, primary, and then a secondary. So Blue Cross, ARP, something like that. So then Medicare and Blue Cross got together and they said, well, let's just create a combined policy and call it Medicare Advantage, or Medicare Plus Blue was another. So you got one card instead of two. They combined the benefits. And what they did, though, which my patients didn't realize this, is they took away their benefits. So they still had chiropractic adjustments, but they no longer paid for the examination and the x-rays. And then they had a much higher copay. So they went from maybe a $5 copay to a $20 copay. And then they had to pay out of pocket for examination and x-rays. So these Medicare Advantage policies, they made it seem really good for the subscriber, didn't they? Right? Who do you think the Medicare Advantage policy benefits? The insurance company. I mean, it's, it's why they do this stuff, right? It's not, they didn't do that for you. They did it for them. So, yeah. So anywho, so just keep that in mind. And I know insurance gets to be expensive. People are like, oh, if I'm paying for it, I might as well use it. I should be able to use it. But that's why I say too, if you think about insurance as catastrophic, and then you start looking at the dollars and cents. So what would you pay for a monthly premium? And then what's your deductible? And so, if you can save money in a monthly premium by having a higher deductible, that's always helpful for people as well. Um, but then you have to know if there's something catastrophic, then you're gonna have to meet that deductible. So it really becomes what works for you. If people are on medications and you need prescription coverage, you probably have to go with a lower deductible plan, which means your monthly um, premium is going to be higher. But then, again, it becomes I don't know what kind of medication you're on, but then it's like, how many medications do you need to be on? And maybe you should, see a nutritionist to try to get off some of those medications and work with your medical doctor to help you get healthier so you don't need to be on so many. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, is it just like in this pharmaceutical hamster wheel? My husband has often said we'd be better off paying out of pocket, and that's so true. That's so true. P squared. I've paid cash for most everything. Um, when my daughter had 4 knee surgeries, so we used insurance for that. But paid for her physical therapy. I think some of her insurance paid for PT, but I paid for a lot out of pocket when it comes to our health and our health care and our wellness. I mean, nobody pays for my massages but me, my acupuncture. I'm fortunate to trade chiropractic adjustments with other chiropractors, but I do all these. Well, I go to yoga a couple times a week. I'm always exercising. The insurance company doesn't pay for that. It's all me. I'm paying for all of that out of my own pocket, but I'm paying for it now because it makes me healthier in the long run. I feel better about myself. I have energy. I feel, I have vitality in my life, my world, but it's because of what I spend on me and my health. So I want to encourage the rest of you to, think of your insurance as they're not out to make you healthy. They're there for catastrophic. And that if you really want to be healthy, don't make a decision on can you do something because your insurance company does or doesn't pay for it. That's really that's not going to serve you. My physical therapist bills acupuncturist dry needling to get insurance to pay for it. Yeah. Yeah. And again, why does insurance cover dry needling and not acupuncture? It's so crazy, right? What you have to, again, the hoops that you have to jump through. So anyway, wow, you guys, that was a fast hour. Holy moly. Time flies when you're talking about insurance. So all right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a lot of information with regards to insurance. If you have any other questions, just drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them for you. If I've completely confused you, then please let me know. Thank you, Mountain Grandma. I'm so glad that you found this valuable. Too many people they just don't understand. So just trying to make it make sense for you. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I appreciate you being here very much. We call it creative documentation. Yep, exactly. I call it coding roulette. So, it's like, you're still doing the same thing, just which code gets you paid, right? And it does. It makes my job a lot harder. But again, my job's starting to be much easier because now you come in, you get adjusted, you pay me for it, and that's it. So very few insurance companies coming through my door at this point. Certainly none of the blues. So I feel very liberated to be out of network. Basically, like I say, they threatened me. I was standing I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. I had the army of bayonets coming towards me, and I had to jump and hope for a soft landing. And so, I'm here to provide value. I'm here to change people's lives. I'm here to build people back up and give them the life that they want. and that they deserve. So you can't do that when you're being handcuffed and dictated by some corporate entity that their job is to just keep their own money. So there's look at my boy over there. Look at him. He's so cute. He's he had so much fun at the lake today. It was a great day. Yeah. It was a great day. So all right, time for me to chill out as well. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Make sure you share this channel with people. Let them know all the amazing things we're doing here. I'll see you tomorrow morning for Reset Monday, and we'll see you Thursday for Chiropractic is Sexy. Have a great week. I'll tell Bentley you said hi, Rick. All right, thanks, you guys. See ya.